That rotation looks like it's starting to strengthen now, just south of Fayetteville.
This is your time to take shelter before it gets to your area.
Maybe some small hail up to the size of quarters with that one.
Alerting Arkansas, sponsored by American Storm Shelters and McClarty Daniel.
Winter will be wrapping up soon, and you don't have to live here long to know that spring means severe weather season. But what is this spring looking like? Here is your 5 News 2022 Severe Weather Outlook.
Last year was quieter than normal. During the months of March, April, and May, we had 17 tornadoes in Arkansas, compared to 19 on average. Even fewer in Oklahoma, only 7. Our biggest tornado threat came the evening of May 3rd, where storms in LaFleur County moved into the Fort Smith area and dropped an EF1 tornado near Muldrow and another in North Fort Smith and Van Buren. This one damaged the Crawford County Courthouse.
We were lucky with a quieter spring in 2021, but that may not always be the case in the future. Studies are showing that Tornado Alley may be shifting east.
This map shows where tornadoes usually touch down. A study in 2018 noticed that the center of Tornado Alley may be shifting east into Arkansas and the Deep South. Drier conditions in the plains may move where dry lines and fronts spark supercell thunderstorms. If this pattern continues, Arkansas's tornado count will go up. With this in mind, how is spring 2022 shaping up, specifically March, April, and May? We have a La Nina pattern right now, or colder than normal ocean temperatures in the eastern Pacific. That generally means a more active jet stream over Arkansas and eastern Oklahoma, producing more storm activity. In fact, 3 of our 4 biggest tornado outbreaks in the natural state have taken place during La Nina.
An EF3 tornado, a half-mile wide, hit a portion of Garrison Avenue.
The Fort Smith tornado of 1996 and the Joplin tornado of 2011 were La Nina springs. However, this La Nina will be unique as it weakens to a neutral phase by summer. When this has happened in the past, we've actually had fewer tornadoes than normal across Arkansas. More things to note. This season may also be warmer than normal and slightly wetter than normal. The Climate Prediction Center is forecasting much of the plains and the south to have above average temperatures, more warm days than cool days. More rainfall is expected too, especially for northern and eastern Arkansas. Let's put everything together. Here's your 2022 severe weather outlook. With a more active jet, we are expecting more thunderstorms, but they won't all have tornadoes. In all weakening La Nina springs, we have had near or below average tornadoes. For perspective, Arkansas gets an average of 19 twisters every spring. Specifically, Northwest Arkansas and the River Valley together get 5 twisters on average every spring. Tornado threats may be replaced with more hail and wind threats thanks to warmer than normal temperatures. Plus, flooding threats are slightly up with higher rainfall chances.
More thunderstorms this spring with higher hail, wind, and flooding threats with a slightly lower tornado threat. That's our forecast. Every storm is different, and just one cold front can turn into a major tornado outbreak. Severe weather season is go time for us, and that's why we are alerting Arkansas to get you ready before the storms strike. With 5 News, I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Standridge. That rotation looks like it's starting to strengthen now, just south of Fayetteville.
This is your time to take shelter before it gets to your area.
Maybe some small hail up to the size of quarters with that one.
Alerting Arkansas, sponsored by American Storm Shelters and McClarty Daniel.
With its violent rotating column of air that can reach up to 200 miles per hour, a tornado is one of nature's most destructive storms. The most powerful tornadoes can tear down buildings, throw cars in the air, lift houses off their foundations, or even tip over trains. There are many myths and questions about tornado season in the natural state, so let's answer a few. Number 1, let's start with a big myth here in Arkansas. Can tornadoes cross rivers and mountains? The answer is simple, yes. Tornadoes can develop at any time and any place if the conditions are favorable. Tornadoes are driven by a very strong circulation that is high up in the atmosphere, usually around 15,000 to 30,000 feet. And what the terrain is like at the ground, including the Ozarks, doesn't stop them from forming or even slow them down. The most recent example of a tornado crossing both a river and a mountain in Arkansas was the 2014 Mayflower-Valonia tornado. The tornado ended up crossing over the Ozarks, Lake Maumelle, the Arkansas River, and Lake Conway without missing a beat. Number 2, why does it seem like most tornadoes hit Arkansas during the nighttime? It seems like we see more thunderstorms than tornadoes after dark, but in fact, according to the National Weather Service, most of the tornadoes that have happened in northwest Arkansas and the River Valley have actually occurred during daylight hours based on tornado records from 1950 to 2002. In fact, 67% of confirmed tornadoes happened between 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., and then 48% happened from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. The reason why we have more activity after dark than other locations further west is likely tied to the fact that severe thunderstorms often develop during the heat of the day, which is in the middle, late afternoon hours when the capping inversion is the weakest. Thunderstorms that develop in the mid-late afternoon hours must travel across Oklahoma to reach Arkansas, and if they develop far enough west, that will result in them moving into western Arkansas after dark, and the more likely tornadic ingredients may not be in place any longer. So if these storms do produce tornadoes, they're typically on the weak side and very short-lived. So that explains why there aren't a lot of EF3 or higher tornadoes reported in our area. Number 3. Who has the most tornadoes in northwest Arkansas and the River Valley? Here is a look at the number of tornadoes that occurred in each county from 1950 through 2011. Out of all the counties in northwest Arkansas and the River Valley, LaFleur County has had the most tornadoes reported, while Bentonville falls second. Last but not least, how are tornadoes even rated? Tornadoes come in all different shapes and sizes, and it's not a simple and easy process to rate a tornado. The only way to determine the strength of the tornado is through damage assessments. The National Weather Service categorizes tornadoes by a number rating, from 0 to 5 after assessing the damage. Tornadoes are ranked using the Enhanced Fujita scale, which is an updated version of the original Fujita scale developed by T. Theodore Fujita. The EF scale takes into account more components than the original F scale did when assigning a wind speed rating to a tornado. The EF scale incorporates 28 damage indicators known as DIs, which includes the building type, structures, and trees. For each damage indicator, there are 8 degrees of damage, known as DODs, ranging from the beginning of visible damage to complete destruction of the damage indicator. The most important thing to note with an EF scale is that a tornado's assigned rating is strictly an estimate based on the damage that was associated with the tornado. Covering the weather where you live, I'm 5 News meteorologist Michelle Trotter.
That rotation looks like it's starting to strengthen now, just south of Fayetteville.
This is your time to take shelter before it gets to your area.
Maybe some small hail up to the size of quarters with that one.
Alerting Arkansas, sponsored by American Storm Shelters and McClarty Daniel.
Before severe weather strikes, your 5 News weather team issues weather alerts. Yellow for days to keep a watchful eye, and red for when serious storms are approaching. Thunderstorms move quickly around here, and they can try to catch you off guard, especially when life is busy. When tornadoes strike, we want to help you create a safety plan for you and your family, no matter where you are, whether you're at school, work, home, or even in the car. How many times have you been caught in a storm while driving? If there is a tornado, the National Weather Service suggests you get out of your car, which can be easily picked up, and seek shelter in the nearest sturdy building.
No buildings around. Next safest place is to get into a ditch or ravine to keep you safer from flying debris. If you cannot get out of the car, stay buckled, cover your head, and then try to stay below window level.
When you're at your home, try to get to the lowest, most interior room of your house, and then try to get as many walls between you and the outside. And then, of course, grab your pets, grab some pillows, grab some blankets, and maybe some helmets as well. At work, ask your supervisor where to go during a tornado warning. Here at Channel 5, our control room is our tornado safe room. Everything we need to keep our storm coverage live is right in here.
Now we're at school. Today, Greenland's doing a tornado drill, so let's see how the students prepare for when storms strike.
We followed second graders as they began their tornado drill, quietly going down the hall to their tornado safe room. Instead of staying in the hallways, they have a separate fortified room to keep their students more protected, but it all starts with activating the school's safety plan by administrators.
The teachers all have a app on their phones called Rapture, so we initiate that, and then we go to the alarm system.
1, 2, 3. Great job, you guys. Sounds like the pirates are ready.
The pirates are always ready.
Now you're ready too. Make sure everyone in your family knows the safety plan and give it a practice run. Staying ahead of the storm and alerting Arkansas. I'm 5 News Chief Meteorologist Matt Standridge. That rotation looks like it's starting to strengthen now, just south of Fayetteville.
This is your time to take shelter before it gets to your area.
Maybe some small hail up to the size of quarters with that one.
Alerting Arkansas, sponsored by American Storm Shelters and McClarty Daniel.
Thunderstorms can form anytime and any day of the year. When you start to see the sky darken with big clouds rolling in and flashes of lightning, you know a thunderstorm is heading your way. Sometimes if there is enough energy in the atmosphere at that time, that thunderstorm could turn strong, violent, or even severe. But how and why does the thunderstorm turn severe? And why is the springtime considered severe weather season? As we start to go from winter to the spring season, the lower level of the atmosphere starts to warm up and become more humid, meaning the atmosphere starts to become unstable, which is a key ingredient for strong thunderstorms to form. Also during the spring, the days start becoming longer, meaning we start to have more sunlight, which means the greater the chance for convection. The sun heats the ground, which then heats the air directly above the ground. If there is something in the atmosphere to lift that warm air up, the cold air starts to push out of the way. As the warm air goes up, the air parcels in that warm layer start to cool, and as that air cools, the water vapor in the air will condense into clouds. With the air unstable and moisture from the water vapor, we have part of a recipe for a thunderstorm. You really need 4 ingredients for a thunderstorm to turn severe: a lifting mechanism, meaning a front of some sort to move through, moisture, instability, and wind shear. Just how powerful a storm will become depends how extreme those conditions are at that time. The reason why we see more severe weather during the springtime than any other season is because all those ingredients come together perfectly, causing thunderstorms to turn strong and even severe. Let's put it together. What happens at the beginning of spring is that the warm and moist air starts to push up from the Gulf of Mexico into the Great Plains. While the instability increases, the wind shear increases as well. We still see fronts during the springtime: warm fronts, cold fronts, stationary fronts, which will be the lifting needed. So when all that comes together, it's prime time for severe thunderstorms to form, along with all the severe weather hazards that come with them: flooding, damaging winds, large hail, and tornadoes. Areas of the country that typically warm up faster with a combination of a lot of moisture in the air usually are the areas that see early season severe thunderstorms. So for states on the Gulf Coast, tornado season usually peaks around March through April, while the southern plains peak is around May into June. And last but not least, the most northern states would be around June or July. Covering the weather where you live, I'm 5 News meteorologist Michelle Trotter.
That rotation looks like it's starting to strengthen now, just south of Fayetteville.
This is your time to take shelter before it gets to your area.
Maybe some small hail up to the size of quarters with that one.
Alerting Arkansas, sponsored by American Storm Shelters and McClarty Daniel.
Take a look at this map. It shows the most commonly used foundation type by state. We're talking basements, crawl space, or slabs. During a tornado, much of the country is told to get to the basement. However, most of us in Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Texas, we don't have basements. Why?
We get a lot of people coming in that I deal with, clients that they're not Arkansans yet. It's one of the questions I get a lot asked is, hey, why aren't there any basements?
We spoke with Mark Phillips, owner of Mark Phillips Construction, to give us some clarity on why we aren't building homes with them. Most of it comes down to our soil and cost. Our soil's wetter, and we live in a more humid climate.
Because of the red dirt that we build on, the waterproofing of a basement, as you know, is very important. You've always heard the leaky basement.
Plus, many of us in Arkansas live on the Ozark Plateau, bringing even more costly challenges.
And when you start digging around the side of these mountains and stuff, you just never know what you get into, kind of limestone, and then you're into geotechnical guys coming out doing reports, testing the soil, and then finding out that you've got, $15,000, $20,000 of added expense to dynamite a certain rock out of the way so you can dig your basement out. It gets expensive. It can be a difference of a slab on grade foundation. That foundation cost could be, half of what it's going to be for that basement.
Since basements aren't common here, what are local builders doing to help provide a safe place for us to go during a storm?
I do a lot of storm shelters for folks that are freestanding. I've built them inside the homes. I've built them there. I've got some that we'll put inside of garages that just fix to the floor, and they're tested against F5 type winds.
During the build process, you can incorporate a storm shelter and make it look as if it's just another small room, or have it installed in the garage. You can even put it outside anywhere on your lot. Some clients ask to tornado-proof a room with concrete walls and a concrete top, but it can be very costly and not as effective as a storm shelter.
I've also poured concrete walls on a slab house and poured a concrete top to it, and so even that versus doing the freestanding ones is a more expensive process. That's more of a peace of mind for them. It's not necessarily structurally going to do much.
As long as you have some space in the garage or in the ground, a storm shelter could be a great safety investment for you and your family. With 5 News and finding out why you won't find many basements around here, I'm meteorologist Zach Scott.